Good morning, y'all. Good morning. Happy Wednesday morning. So listen, y'all. When we did the last live show, everybody was dropping down in the comments and saying, Funky Dineva, please comment on the B. Smith situation. I am embarrassed, y'all, because as significant as B. Smith is to black culture and her contribution to the game, I had never heard of her before. And did not know that she was like the Black Martha Stewart before Martha Stewart. Nevertheless, no better time to speak about such a great, marvelous, magnificent woman than Black History Month. So first and foremost, let's give a Black History Month shout out and salute to Miss B. Smith for her contributions. Now, everybody is going crazy. The internet has been set ablaze because B. Smith is suffering from what I gather as rapidly progressing Alzheimer's, and her husband has went off and got a girlfriend and moved her in the house, and they're kind of all cohabitating, and a lot of people are upset about the situation, and y'all wanted me to talk about it, so here it is. Let me start out by saying many of you probably going to walk away from this video upset with me because my view on the situation doesn't necessarily align with the social media outcry that has been going on right now. I'm not going to sit here and say that I don't have a problem with it, but I don't necessarily have a problem with it. I want to approach it from this perspective. The arrangement makes us uncomfortable because it challenges everything that we know to be true about a marriage and a relationship. I'm uneasy. I am uneasy. I'm uncomfortable. Weird. I'm weirded out. But I'm not upset per se. I did a little research. I read up on B. Smith. I read up on her husband. I read up on what's going on. I also did a little research on Alzheimer's, and I was hearing some testimonials from people, particularly spouses, who had to care for people with Alzheimer's. And the first thing that I want to say is that oftentimes when people are ill, they're terminally ill, you've got the person who is infected, then you've got the people who are affected. And when somebody has a disease like Alzheimer's, they are not the only ones going through something. You know what I'm saying? The family, the immediate family, especially the loved ones who end up having to care for this person throughout the duration of this disease, that person is also affected despite the fact that they are not infected. And so, you know, of course, the nurturing side of us and the human side of us, our energy, our devotion is going to automatically go to the person who is ill. But what about the person who is going through simultaneously as the person who is ill? I think when we sit down and we take a beat and we start to think through some of this stuff, it may relieve some of you guys' fears. So the first thing that I want to talk about is, yes, the arrangement is unconventional. And because it is unconventional, it is uncomfortable for many people, in particularly black women. And I think the optics of it all does not help the situation. You know what I'm saying? We can't negate the fact that there's already this narrative and this preconceived set of emotions that people adopt when they see an affluent black man with a white woman. And then she's like blonde-haired white woman. She's like the living embodiment of everything that is white woman, right? The question that I have for many of you out there, and particularly black women, is would this situation be more palatable if she was black? That's number one. But number two, I was reading some testimonials and watching some videos on YouTube of spouses who were caring for people with Alzheimer's, and many of them began to talk about how lonely it is in caring for a spouse with Alzheimer's, because Your spouse is gone. You know, there was one guy that was saying, my wife is gone. My wife is not in there. The person that I married is no longer there. And he even went on to describe his wife as just a physical shell with a new being inside. That being said, there's a level of compassion that I have for anybody who cares for people who are terminally ill, especially in a marriage situation. They've been married for 26 years now at this point. She's been sick for 6. And I can't remember how long he and the girlfriend have been together. But nevertheless, that has got to be a hard pill to swallow, that the person that you loved and the mannerisms that you loved and the pancakes that she cooked are now gone, and you are now stuck with the same physical being but a different person in your household, in your bed. It's kind of like the waiting to exhale situation with Bernadine and Wesley Snipes. When Wesley was describing, my wife has been sick for so long, and I know this sounds selfish, but independent of my wife being terminally ill, I still have a set of needs that include affection, adoration, admiration, sex, companionship, so on and so forth. And I know that it sounds selfish for a lot of people, and I know the optics of it all don't look too favorable on the husband's side, but I'm just seeking to understand before I seek to be understood. And I think that many of us who are weighing in on this and who are casting our opinions on the situation, we haven't lived it. I heard a lot of people say, oh, it ain't right. He right here financing that white woman life, living off of B's money. I want to address that. First and foremost, that's not B's money. That's their money, number one. Number two, from my research, he was a well-known television executive. In addition to, in previous years, he also produced the Essence Awards. So this is not some old nobody ass man who necessarily needs B's money. Now, if we're going to go back to my waiting to exhale example, when Angela Bassett told that man, I was the background in your foreground. Yes, B was doing what it is she was doing. She was the brand. But that was her husband. And with him being a television executive, I am more than sure he was the background in her foreground. Therefore, that's not B's money. That's their money. Number two, if and when B dies, and from the looks of things, I'm not God, but she will more than likely die from this disease, the money will go to the husband anyway. You know what I'm saying? B's disease has progressed to a point where she can no longer be in control of her finances, and she needs permanent caregiving and assistantship, so on and so forth. Now, I would have a problem with this situation if B was being mistreated. I see a lot of social media memes right now going around, and that Iyanla has helped us adopt this whole notion that your cup must be full first before you can go out in the world and do good and help other people, or simply put, you can't pour from an empty cup. I don't know that I would want anyone caring for me from an obligatory place. I don't know that I would want somebody wiping my ass, fixing my food, taking me to my appointments, who is miserable, unhappy, and who blames me for their misery and their unhappiness. I think that this is a very peculiar situation that requires us to look at it from a non-conventional place. I don't know that B's husband would be able to give her the quality of the level of care that she would need with this disease if he was unhappy in his own life in feeling like he was being sentenced to some sort of indefinite prison situation in caring for her. Or I would also feel bothered if he locked her away somewhere in some sort of home while he was jet setting away with this woman, with this white woman. Then I would feel away. This is unconventional, y'all, and it may not work for y'all. Hell, I don't know if it would work for me. But B is being well taken care of while he's being taken care of at the same time. For me, it is a win-win situation out of a very shitty situation. The situation is shitty. And I have a question for you guys out there, especially the ones who are going to completely bypass at least exploring the idea of thinking this through, and who is gridlocked and deadlocked on he is dead ass wrong. He's financing his life with this woman on her money. Alzheimer's can take you out in 3 years. It can take you out in 10 or 15 years. Reasonably put, is the person who is caring for the person with Alzheimer's, are they just, in short, supposed to die with them for those 10 or 15 years? I don't know. And I'm not saying I have the answer. I'm just simply posing the question. I haven't been put in that situation. But I could not imagine being married to someone and then having to care for them for 10 years and they're not there. That would be a miserable decade of my life. And I'm not saying the answer is move in a lover. Here is one place where I personally feel Dan went wrong. Letting the world in. They could have been over there living peacefully with nobody knowing what was going on. I'm not understanding his rationale behind going public with this situation, especially considering the fact that he is a black man. He's a black man who's worked in television and media. And quite frankly, being a black man in this country, as old as he is more abreast of the narrative about black men with white women in relation to black men than my 35-year-old ass is. He had to have known that this was going to spark some sort of negative backlash, and I'm just not understanding why they chose to go public with something that is so private and unconventional. Perhaps he may feel like his mission on life is to show people the new normal. I don't know. Only Dan can answer that. But y'all, I don't know that I have a stance on this. And if I do, it definitely doesn't align with the outrage that is being exemplified, in particular from the black female community. I think, again, it's a peculiar situation that requires a peculiar solution. Was moving her in the proper thing to do? I don't think so. I think that this situation would have been more palatable had he moved the woman next door, had they remained boyfriend and girlfriend until B died. I think, and kind of kept it on the low. I think that would have been a tight bit more palatable for most people. But then when you do it that way, that creates a new situation or set of circumstances. Because when you keep the girlfriend in the shadows, then it creates a situation where people can say, you knew that was wrong, that's why you kept it secret. Instead, he decided to live out loud, live, and in color, and boldly, to take the shame out of it, to take the sneakiness out of it. And I would imagine that B does have other family members outside of her husband and her stepdaughter, who by nature is going to side with her father. I would be curious to know how other members of B's family feels. We've yet to hear anything, so I'm assuming that they must be, relatively comfortable with the situation. I'm all about level of care at this point. I know I cracked a joke on my live that went, hell, it ain't like she know the damn difference. And while that's not necessarily funny, it does carry some weight. It's not like B is actively being hurt. And the fact that the girlfriend, or you guys want to call her the mistress, and maybe she may be by your definition, the fact that the girlfriend shares in the care, it's very telling of what they've got going on. I loved that show, The New Normal, because it showed us as a society that everything ain't as cut and dry as the conventional marriage. This is an unconventional situation. It really is. For an unconventional disease. So there is not a straight-laced, cookie-cutter, suburbia answer to this problem. And I think that her husband is doing the best he can with the set of cards that he has been dealt. Regardless of the fact, there was going to be a perceived loser in this situation. But here's the gag. It's the perception of a loss. But I really do think in this situation, everybody is winning. I think B is winning. I think the husband is winning as best he can. Now, the question that I have, I understand the husband's needs, logic, and rationale. I'm not quite understanding the girlfriend's logic. Her life has not been plagued with a set of extraordinary circumstances that makes her have to participate in something as unconventional as this. She and he may argue, we just fell in love and we couldn't help that. I think it may have even been more palatable for the masses had B's husband fallen in love with a wife at an Alzheimer support group who was actually going through the same thing he was going through, and everybody moved into the house and became the Brady Bunch. I think that situation would have been a hell of a lot more palatable for the outside public's consumption. But y'all, I'm reserving my judgment on this one. Like I said, it makes me slightly uncomfortable and I'm weirded out. But as I sit through it and I try my hardest to understand it a little more, I can understand how this situation arose. And in closing, just as long as B is being cared for to the highest possible level of care, and all people involved are active in her care and she's not being abused or mistreated, I'm going to reserve my judgment. I don't want to say I'm completely all right with it. However, I think over time it is a situation that I could grow to be more comfortable with. And that is my stance on the B. Smith situation. For those of you guys out there who are new to my channel, be sure to like and subscribe. And we're going to have an interesting day of content plus the live show later on. So I'll call y'all later. Bye.